Good evening, Manhattan, Kansas. Welcome to another episode of the Vibe Check. Sorry to throw you back to our regularly scheduled programming there for a second. Had a bit of a technical difficulty with the mic, but I've got it all sorted out, and I am happy to be back after a 2-week break. Yeah, 2-week break, Thanksgiving break. Well, a lot has happened for me over the last 2 weeks. I turned 21. That was fun. That was pretty cool. I actually remember most of that, which is also a plus. So. Yeah, but I had a fun 2 weeks, but I'm happy to be back here on this wonderful, a little bit of a chilly, windy Sunday evening. Man, it does feel good to be back in the station. It does feel good to be back sharing some nice, funky jams with you guys here on another episode of the Vibe Check. We've got a bit of a special episode this week, mainly special because I decided that it was going to be special. I was originally planning to do this last week, but had to head home for Thanksgiving break to see the family, as you do on the holidays. But I wanted to do a bit of a special episode just because, it was my birthday, and I wanted to kind of celebrate that with featuring one of my favorite bands that I talk about literally all the time. I think I've played like 2 of their songs on the show before. So we're going to be featuring, most of this episode is pretty much, well, not most of, all of this episode is going to be featuring Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. They are my favorite psychedelic rock band. They are kind of the band that inspired me to get into this genre of music and the band that kind of inspired this show as a whole. So this is just going to be an episode of the Vibe Check that's just going to be dedicated to covering their music and kind of just, a bit of a deep dive into what they do and just kind of going through some of their discography. A lot of it's just going to be my favorites, so I hope you guys enjoy that. I think to start off, we're going to actually start off with something that's fairly recent. I think it was in October 16th, I believe. The band put out a live recording album it's a taping of their Stop Making Cake tour that actually happened on Halloween in 2019. So this was about a year ago. Well, when it was released, it was about a year ago. Now it's about a year and 2 months, give or take. But this was actually recorded on their Stop Making Cake tour in New Haven, Connecticut. And a lot of I've said this a lot about some of the bands that I feature on this show. A lot of these groups, their recorded tracks and then their actual live tapings, usually just in length, they are very different. And they also usually sound very different because a lot of these bands like to improvise and add on stuff during live shows just to kind of make it a little bit more special for their audience. And that's kind of what I've kind of grown to love, especially about this band. They even have specific songs that they will not play anywhere other than live shows. Like they don't have any tapings of it. Part of that is because some of them are just covers of songs that are copyrighted and they don't have the the copyright or they don't have the license to actually record that, which is understandable, but it does make for a very, very fun live show. So I do have a lot of music to show you guys, and we got a bit of a late start, so I'm going to go ahead and throw you guys right into one of these songs. The first song that I'm going to play you, like I said, is from this live recording album, but it's actually originally from their Pleasure album that came out in 2016, I believe, and this is Bad For You, and this is actually, I think there's like an extra 3 minutes added onto this just from the live taping, so it's definitely going to sound different if you've heard the original track, but I will go ahead and get into it, you guys. This is Bad For You by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong here on Wildcat 91.9. Wildcat 91.9. That was Bad For You by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. Sorry about that little bit of a jump in audio there. I think our board's a little bit weird right now. So sorry if I, blasted anyone's speakers out there at the beginning of the song. But yeah, that's not one of their newest songs. Obviously, that original song was recorded in 2016, but that's just from their live recording album from 2019, Halloween 2019. I didn't even know that, I knew that they had dropped that album, but I don't think I'd ever actually, heard that specific live recording off of it. But I think I like it better than the original recording of Bad For You. But then again, I think Pleasure is probably my least favorite Pigeons album. But hey, to each their own. All right, now that we've gotten that out, and I just kind of wanted to use that as I think that's the only live recording that I'm going to play tonight. And I thought it was just a good way to start off the show because also probably should have warned you guys that a couple of the songs that I'm going to be playing are a little bit more longer because Pigeons is definitely a more long form jam band type group, and especially their live recordings. The original Bad For You is only about I think 6.5 minutes, and that's got a whole 4 whole minutes added onto it. And it's pretty much all just not necessarily improvised, but I'm not sure. I think they kind of just riff off of the chorus of the song and then add other elements in from other songs into it. But yeah, there's a whole 4 section instrumental section towards the back half of that song that you all heard. But yeah, that's all just added kind of like improvisation that the band does, which is what makes their live shows, so fun to be at. You never really know exactly how they're going to change or what they're going to do with a certain song, or if they're going to play some of the songs that they don't have any recordings for. It's part of what I love about bands like this, especially these like psychedelic jam band rock bands. You just never know what you're going to get at their live show, and they always have this amazing energy, because there is like in a way there's a weird element of suspense of like, oh, are they going to play this song, and like how are they going to play it, what are they going to add to it. Yeah, it's what I love about this band, and it's why I'm featuring them tonight. But right now we're going to go back in time a little bit to actually Pigeon's first, I don't know if it was necessarily their first release, but it was their first major EP release in 2010. And I'm going to go ahead and play the song, which was, I believe, just enlisting on the EP. This is the first song. This is Stay. And I actually this was like one of the last, not like the last songs I'd ever heard from them, but I was definitely like a really big Pigeons fans already before I even heard anything from their EP, which is just called Funk. So why don't we go ahead and get into this one? I think this one, it sounds, I don't necessarily know how to describe it, but it has a different vibe from a lot of their newer stuff and even kind of their older stuff. This whole EP sounds a little bit different than the rest of Pigeons. And it's not necessarily like, oh, they were kind of getting into a kind of a rhythm, or they were like finding their niche. It's literally this EP, and then the rest of Pigeons all fits together, but this EP just kind of sticks out a little bit. And maybe it was that they were trying to kind of find their groove and all that stuff, but I don't know. This is a little bit more like, I think, experimental. It doesn't necessarily fit directly. It's still psychedelic, but it's a little bit more just straight rock, I think. But I think you really have to listen to the whole EP. There's about like 10 songs on it to really get what I mean. And also you have to know Pigeons to really understand that. But a Pigeons fan that listens to funk all the way through will agree with this sentiment. But then again, you guys can make your own determinations based off of the single song that I'll play from it. And if you're interested, you can always listen to more of it. All right, so I'll go ahead and get into the song. Stop rambling at you guys. This is Stay by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong here on Wildcat 91.9. Wildcat 91.9, new music now. That was Stay by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. And guys, I think I isolated what I think makes at least Stay and some of the other stuff on funk a little bit different from all the other Pigeon stuff. I think the use of percussion in that EP, it's much more present, or they just mix it differently, where it's just way more, not obvious, but just like kind of in your face. Like I think a lot of the other, I don't know, I think they just mix it in differently, or maybe there's some kind of like different like sound setup, because like no matter what, like the percussion in that, it's much more present, and it's kind of like very like sharp, and like it's very distinct, whereas like in the other songs I think it kind of blends in under the other instrumentals, and I think they also just in like future stuff, I think the lead, well, they really just have a like a bass player and a guitar player, but their instrumentals come up way more and are way more kind of like the front and center part of the music in these songs. So maybe that's what it is. I guess I really haven't I don't know. I haven't necessarily like thought about it and analyzed it until after I said what I said before this in the last break. But hey, I learn something new every day. That might be it. Maybe that's not. Again, feel free to listen to the EP and make your, draw your own conclusions. I encourage you to listen to it because it's just good music overall. All right, well, we are going to go ahead and keep going because we do have quite a bit more music to get through this hour. I think now we're going to move into the 2017 album from Pigeons, Pizzazz. Pizzazz was an album that when I first got into Pigeons, I definitely kind of looked over it. It wasn't necessarily that I disliked anything, but nothing really like kind of took hold of me. But I think it kind of has to go with the necessarily like the theme or the kind of tone of the album. Each of Pigeons' albums each have kind of like a distinct, not necessarily like a theme, but just like a tone, or like almost just kind of a vibe, to use like an informal definition, but like kind of a vibe to them. Like Horizons is like very, very like leaning hard into psychedelic, and like even like the lyrics and like the actual like melody structures are a lot more, they're a lot closer to traditional psychedelic rock. I think Pizzazz is a little bit more, that's getting more into like funk and like kind of jazzy rock. And I think you'll be able to see that because I'm going to play 2 songs from Pizzazz and then 2 songs from Horizons. I am not going to play, just because we have to cut something out because we got started a little bit late. I'm not going to play anything from Pleasure, partially because Pleasure, Pleasure is my least favorite album from Pigeons. Then again, I encourage you to go listen to it, and maybe it's your favorite. It's just not my favorite from them. But who am I to judge? I'm just a simple man talking on the radio. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and throw you guys into the next song from Pizzazz. This is Something For You by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong here on Wildcat 91.9. Wildcat 91.9. That was Something For You by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. I hope you guys can kind of see what I meant by that comment that I made in the last break about Pizzazz is definitely an album that I think is a little bit more kind of jazz funk centric rather than psychedelic. I think it's more just straight funk. I don't think I include the next song that I include. It's actually one that I've played on the show before, but I don't think it leans as heavily into the jazz aspect. Some of the other songs or the tracks on Pizzazz definitely do, but then again, I did not include them in the music that I downloaded for tonight. But once again, bringing it back around, I encourage you to go listen to all of their music because Pigeons is a fantastic band who deserves your support and your love. They've got mine, if you can't tell that already. All right, we are quickly running through the hour, so I think I'm going to go ahead and throw you guys into the next song. As I said, this is actually a song that I have played on the show, I believe, in the very first week that I did it. So what was that, back in like October, I think? Man, I'm losing track of my weeks. The semester has both gone by very, very slow and, shot by very fast for me. So it's kind of hard for me to keep track of where I've been in the last few weeks. But yeah, I think it was in like the very first episode of the show that I did. And kind of a funny story. I heard this, and I didn't actually know that it was from Pizzazz. I thought it was from Pigeon's newest album, which is Presto, which I did not include any of that music for this episode, mainly because I shoved that whole album down this station's throat the week it came out. I hid those albums in our the tracks from that album in our A rotation, and even though they're 6 minutes long, and usually we don't like to have, we like to have songs between like, I think it's like 3 minutes and like 4.5, like tops. But I hid them in there for like 3 weeks, and so they got a lot of airtime. But I love those songs. But I encourage you to go listen to it. But I will go ahead and get into the next song, you guys. This is Ocean Flows by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong here on Wildcat 91.9. Wildcat 91.9, new music now. That was Ocean Flows by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's definitely one of my more recent favorites that I found. Like I said, I originally thought that song actually was like on the bottom half of Presto's roster, track list, but it's actually on. It's like one of the first 3 listed in Pizzazz. All right, so we are quickly running out of the hour, and I've got one more like kind of long song and then another shorter one that I want to play for you guys. This next song, actually, funny enough, I heard this song live about a year ago for my birthday it was November 13th, 2019. I was at the record bar in downtown KC, and Pigeons was playing, and I was there with all my friends, and I was hype. It was a very, very good way to spend I turned 20. Geez, yeah, I just turned 21. Man, my mind's all over the place. But I believe this was actually like one of it was either the first or like the second song they played in their set that night. And it's like probably my second favorite Pigeon song. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it so that way I can play you guys my favorite song at the end of the hour. This is Melting Lights by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong here on Wildcat 91.9. Wildcat 91.9, that was Melting Lights by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. We are almost out of time, and the next song that I want to play is pretty much going to take up all of the time, so I'm just going to go ahead and say a quick goodbye. Thank you guys so much for listening to this special episode and putting up with my obsession with Pigeons. I know this is like kind of, I'm doing a little special birthday episode because I didn't get to do one last week. But either way, thanks for putting up with it. I appreciate you guys. And I will see you next week for what will be the last episode of Vibe Check for the semester. Because, I got to go on winter break and de-stress from this crazy semester, which I'm assuming all of you do as well. So thank you so much. This last song is going to be Horizons by Pigeons Playing Ping Pong here on Wildcat 91.9.